Our first fireside chat of the event is coming up, and it has an ambitious title. But before we get to that, I would like to remind you that we have two other stages as well. The innovation stage, where more of the cutting edge topics will be discussed, cutting edge technology, and of course the invite-only roundtable room. If you booked a slot in the roundtable room, that's great. You'll probably check it out anyway. The innovation room is of course free for all. It's also for the dear audience online. It's available. You can just switch the streams, and you will see that. But let us get to our fireside chat. It has an ambitious initiative in its title. It's a DEUSS, a pan-European project to drive SME financing via tokenized bonds. And please welcome former MEP Ondřej Kovařík, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Sebastian Becker, MD of the German Federal Blockchain Association, to the stage, please.
I hope so, Marcel. Thanks a lot. This is the Bundesblock double feature. You heard my colleague Daniela sorting out the stablecoin world. And we'll now do something that Patrick just mentioned from his digital elevated American viewpoint here. The nitty-gritty bottom-up work of what can we do to help not only drive European economies, but also European sovereignty. But first, Ondřej, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And well, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you also to the organizers for having us today. My name is Ondřej Kovařík, and as it was mentioned, I'm a former member of the European Parliament, elected in the Czech Republic. In the European Parliament, I was very much working, and maybe don't know, maybe sometimes it's popular, sometimes it's unpopular, but I was one of the negotiators of markets in crypto assets regulation, on transfer of funds regulation, and also the DLT pilot. So yeah, whatever you like or don't like on it, now you know who is behind it. And currently I'm part of the DEUSS project team and consortium that is developing this, and I think this is also what we will be discussing today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ondřej. And maybe you can explain a little bit, you know, the thinking about this, what is now the DEUSS project started 5-6 years ago. Where does it come from, also in terms of the political framing from the EU Commission?
Exactly. It's definitely not a new project. It has been first in a pipeline or in heads of some of the colleagues involved in the project for already some time. I think it really started to have attraction in, well, I would say 4 or 5 years ago in this very specific situation. I think if you look at it, let's say from the economic point of view, we're talking about the post-pandemic period when there was a lot of efforts and also a lot of policy making on EU, but also member states level, trying to sort of revive European economy after the pandemic shock, with specific attention paid to access to finance for small and medium-sized companies. This is also the segment where DEUSS is focusing, and obviously there is this technological part, so sort of a development and evolution in a DLT-based technology in blockchain sector that is underpinning sort of the policy idea, and I think on top of it also something that is, I think, more visible now as we speak. It's actually the idea of introducing DLT-based technology into financial services and make sure that the tokens as we know them today, are not only tokens representing money and used for payment purposes, but there could be other classes of financial assets that can be tokenized in the market. I think all these three things put together is actually where the project is currently today.
That means, and we all know the pace of European, funding projects. Your idea was developed relatively early, and now with the funding that you secured from Europe's budget, you have now developed, let's say, the technical foundation to help with SME financing. We all know that secondary marketplaces are right now, a fashionable thing. So maybe you can say a little bit about what the project is doing right now. And I think you're coming to the end of your first term now of European financing in summertime, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And we talk about the DLT pilot regime as a framework for the project.
Absolutely. So there's a number of policy initiatives that are actually the concretization of what we discussed in terms of the policy and economic trends behind the project. The project itself is actually focusing on building a DLT-based market infrastructure that will enable small and medium-sized companies to issue tokenized bonds to access debt financing for their projects. That's I think in a nutshell the key idea. The project is really focusing on the matter, so the technological side also, but also the functionalities of the market infrastructure. But obviously, in order to actually leave at some point the pilot stage in which it is right now, it would have to have also other functionalities and features that would be interesting for potential investors, for potential customers, including financial services providers that will, for instance, secure the distribution channels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, let's say, on top of what should be the building block of the project, which is the market infrastructure, the technology side. It should also be opened and ready for what we expect to become other trends and standards on the markets, such as AI-driven agentic trading, accessibility and availability to settle the transactions in other tokens like stablecoins or digital euro, for the matter. We are digital euro conference, so I think this is also the idea, and obviously to provide other possibilities of secondary trading that I think are not at this point available or standard for regular bond issuing.
Let me ask you about the political ambitions behind a project like DEUSS also from the Commission's point of view, because a few hundred meters or a few kilometers south from here, you have the offices of 21X, another secondary marketplace that started with the DLT pilot regime, but they are backed by venture capital. So what should be the difference between, let's say, a truly pan-European marketplace and a company that takes the normal private financing routes?
I think there's a number of features that is actually giving the DEUSS project the European label. Apart from the financing, obviously, meaning that it should meet and comply with some of the policy ambitions that the Commission is putting forward. First of all, I think this is exactly what you mentioned. It's the idea to create a pan-European infrastructure, meaning that if you look at future ambition, that would be not only linking investors and their or the companies and their potential investors from a specific state or a region, but really allow for cross-border financing. So ideally, a let's say Polish company looking for investors from Netherlands or Scandinavia, or a Spanish company looking for investors from other parts of Europe. So idea like that, and I think this is also what the Commission and the European institutions are trying to promote. So really build a truly European single market, where we also see that the financial services are not locked in a specific environment of a member state. That I think is one of the ambition. The other ambition, which I think is fair to say, is that the entire project is a sort of a build on layer one European blockchain infrastructure that has been invested in and created and is run by European Commission, or now the private consortium with the European Commission involvement. The DEUSS project is actually layer two on this blockchain. So this is also actually to make sure that there is a promotion of Europe-based infrastructure, that there is a use of it, and I think somehow it, in my view, also fits the very idea of this European sovereignty, technological sovereignty, and strategic autonomous that European institutions, and I think many member states are trying to pursue right now, given some, let's say, negative global trends that we see in past years.
I have no idea what you're alluding to here. Of course, investors tend to also invest locally because they might understand the needs of a German automotive sector SME better if they are based here in Frankfurt. If we imagine a truly European approach where a Scandinavian investor is interested in this little factory in Portugal, do you think, agentic and further automation trading can help with this? And what's the role of agentic AI and agentic automated trading patterns are playing for DEUSS right now? You have lots of universities on board. You also have Alastria as part of the consortium, so you have all the experience that is needed, right?
Indeed, there's experience, and there's also like technical universities that are part of the consortia, where I think they already have teams that are very much look into different applications of AI-driven technology, AI models, etc. I believe personally that AI will transform, among others, also the area of trading. But I think just maybe starting back from...
Let's talk about matchmaking rather than trading in that context, maybe.
Could be in this sphere, but exactly coming to your question, I think what makes people invest locally, it's sort of a trust, but also I think local knowledge, so that they know what we are talking about. I think this lack of information and lack of trust, this is something where the agentic layer or the AI layer can actually help overcome this for the investors, and they may be more looking into first different opportunities to invest, but obviously looking into potential yields that they can get, and for DEUSS as a market infrastructure. We will not at this point focus very much on the trading itself. That will be done by the partners of the project. But I think what is critical at this point is actually make sure that the infrastructure is ready for that. So there is a good interface, there are data available that the agents can actually tap in, but at the same time that the infrastructure is resilient and secure enough in cybersecurity dimension, that whatever happens from outside in terms of external access, it's not actually hampering the functioning of the infrastructure. But obviously, this is the idea that the team is actually currently pursuing, and make sure that whatever happens in the future, the infrastructure is ready for that, and is actually open to external possibilities like the trading. But I think let's build it step by step. I think it would be really good to start with local investments and then come to the cross-border trading. That's also the idea of European institutions. We saw it in many reports, people calling for openness of financial services, etc., etc. But we also see in general, for instance, if you look at the advanced capital markets like Netherlands or Sweden, very much they very much invest locally. So I think it's good to start with that, but obviously not leaving from our perspective the idea of having a real cross-border European single capital market.
If we look at the bigger picture now, there is a lot of certainly lots of tailwind for the DEUSS idea, European sovereignty, 28th regime, harmonized landscape. The economy is certainly not booming, so SMEs will need alternative means of financing rather soonish. Plus, people might be more tempted to invest in their region instead of, financing foreign strange governments' treasury bills. So, which kind of partners are you looking for right now, coming close to the initial 3 years period of public funding?
We're definitely looking for, I think, different type of partners to actually make sure that the project is able to leave the pilot phase and start the real market live phase at some point. I think built on the public funding and public involvement, there is definitely one group of partners would be institutional partners that can actually help the infrastructure like DEUSS to be relevant, important, and also trusted. I think this is important, and also help even then the private partners actually to approach a project more easily. Looking for partners in financial sector that will use this infrastructure for their own activities. Also giving alternatives to the clients that are already catering with financial services. But also, I think, and last but not least, we're definitely looking for partners in the SME sector who will be actually using this infrastructure for issuing their bonds, accessing finance more easily. We can also look, for instance, in the defense sector. We know that a lot of companies there currently have or suffer difficulties when accessing finance in Europe. Alternative infrastructure like DEUSS can actually help them to bridge this issue. And last but not least, obviously, the distribution channels and the investors that will be interested to join. So I think there's a number of groups of potential partners, but I think key would be to have a relevant institutional partner that will help us to overcome this pilot phase.
Before we have to wrap up, let me get back to that sectoral question, because the project is now run by the Czech Ministry of Industry, and you have also team members from Poland. And in Germany we have Rheinmetall, and Comrade Pappberger is trying to acquire another 10 or 12 companies to grow and to form a European champion. I assume the situation in the eastern part of Europe is totally different. There are lots of SMEs also in the defense sector. Is this also shaping your discussions right now, these zoom into specific sectors? Because certainly there is not a European-wide unified sectoral landscape. It differs quite significantly.
Of course, that's true, and we also know that in different regions, SMEs have different issues to access finance. In some countries, it's much easier. In some countries, it's very difficult. The economies of member states are different. But I think I mentioned the defense sector specifically because obviously not only there is a priority in let's say economic industrial terms and obviously the security terms. But I think also the defense sector itself is changing. I mean, you mentioned Rheinmetall, of course. I mean, there are always like huge companies like that. But what we see in the landscape, we see it in the region, in Poland, in Czech Republic, the companies in the defense sector are also those companies who are actually innovators. They are working on a specific piece of technology that by default at the beginning doesn't necessarily have to be a military technology. If you look at the drone industry, I mean, there's a lot of small companies, innovative companies in that area that are actually working on a number of uses of drone technology. But it happens, one of these use cases is actually military use. So if that happens, we know that a lot of companies like that, if they start to consider the projects to have a military impact, they start to suffer from these difficulties to access finance in Europe. So I think it's not only talking about defense sector in, with these huge national champions, but I'm looking at it as a very diverse landscape of small companies that are specific in a niche technology which has a military use, but they actually lack the alternatives to access finance and finance the project in the future.
So thanks a lot, Ondřej. Also at a personal level, that's what we dream about, a politician becoming an entrepreneur once your term ends, and also helping to strengthen Europe at various fronts. And certainly from the perspective of the German Blockchain Association, we will continue to support you and also inform about the updates of those European lighthouse projects such as DEUSS, and also thank you for shaping our regulatory landscape. Yesterday and today, I think the common sense is this helped a lot, to get things moving, especially in difficult times. That's something we often forget when we talk about the adoption of DLT and digital assets and blockchain tech. The last 5, 6, 7 years have not been, let's say, normal. So thanks a lot for the patience in the audience here and online, and invest wisely in the future. There might be more opportunities to do so locally and regionally, and thank you for having us to Digital Euro Association, and back to Marcel.
Thank you.
Thank you both. That was quite insightful, and definitely a different, a different take on things and a different topical orientation here. Thank you. I do not have much to add except for the fact that we have a 30-minute network break, everyone. Grab a coffee and move around a little bit. And of course, network. See you soon.